British system that was clear in internal business. That was a massive effort for all of that, and to say thanks for all of the various fundraising efforts that were undertaken down through the years for the various phases of the struggle. But also to say that this isn't over. We are a United Ireland Party. We want the reunification of our country. We now believe that we have brought the struggle to a place where, within the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, legally established in there is the legal right to push on to Irish reunification. We have concepts in there which we collectively at home call the All-Ireland Agenda. The Northern Executive and the Irish Cabinet meet collectively on occasions to work out joint programmes. That ministers north and south can meet individually in sectoral meetings, or what's known as sectoral meetings. Education Minister north, Education Minister south. The areas of cooperation, which aren't really heavily legally based, but then there are the other 6 areas of implementation which is totally based in law and have an All-Ireland agreement. But that for us is only, if you like, the base on which to push out. We have been negotiating with the Irish government to give Northern MPs speaking rights in the Dáil, in the Oireachtas, and we've been asking them to extend the right presidential elections to the north. Quite ironically, our president in the south, Mary McAleese, is from Belfast, which was at home, she couldn't even vote for herself. But all of that is part of the debate. So while we have made enormous progress, it's just been sometimes unbelievable, and I'll come back to some of the detail of that now in a few minutes, we still have some way to go. This year already has been a bit of a roller coaster of events, right through the whole Christmas period and the New Year. There was open negotiations with the British and Irish government and secret negotiations with the DUP. Secret because they were still afraid to say that they were in the room, or at one stage they were in the next room and they called it proximity talks. Crazy stuff, but we eventually got them all into the one room, and out of all of that we got the British to set a date for the next Assembly election, which turned out to be the 7th of March, and we also kick-started within our own ranks whole debate on policing, provided the British made the final moves in legal terms to allay the fears that we were concerned about around democratic accountability, because we never wanted back to a policing system where they were answerable to nobody. If we were to buy into that, they had to be answerable to the elected assembly. In fairness to the Brits, they did move on that, and we then opened the debate. It was a huge debate. Gerry Adams did all of the public meetings. There were literally hundreds of internal meetings, and there were other meetings with the families of those who had lost loved ones to the RUC or to the British Army. And they were very, very intense meetings. They were very humbling experience for me anyway, to sit in a room. And we did this all in one-to-ones with a wife maybe who had lost her husband, or a mother and father who had lost a son or a daughter, or in one case a daughter who had lost her father. And most of them accepted what we were doing. Some of them found it difficult, but said they wouldn't stand in the way, that they accepted that this process was a good thing. And then that went to the formal RBS at the end of January, where we almost unanimously endorsed moving into the policing force. And that will roll out gradually over the next few months. We moved then into the election on the 7th of March, and we gained 4 extra seats in the Assembly, which put us in a very key position, and also made us quite clearly the leading nationalist party. And then the negotiations with the DUP at that point really intensified. And Paisley, the deadline had been set by the Irish and British government that everything had to be resolved by the 26th of March. And Paisley wanted 6 more weeks. Nothing new in that.
what a surprise.
Two governments said that the only way he could get his extra 6 weeks is if he talked openly with Sinn Fein and got a joint agreement. And once he moved to do that, we knew that we had him, if you like, for want of a better word. Not 6 weeks, as against a couple of years. That then led to the formal meeting on the 8th of May, where the executive was established, and Paisley was elected First Minister, and Martin as Deputy First Minister. And Paisley has been very, very relaxed about this start, which is amazing. I mean, everybody since he was a senior man for 40 years. Neil Robertson and Nigel Dodge are fairly relaxed. You have the likes of Gregory Campbell and East Derry, or as he would call it, East Londonderry. And you would have Jim Wells down in South Down, and you have William McCrae, who are still very, very uneasy about it. But nevertheless, he's done the deal. The executive has been established. And yesterday there was a joint delegation in Washington with Barbara McGuinness, Jerry Kelly, Nigel Dodge, Robertson, Edwin Poots, and Margaret Ritchie from the SDLP and Reg Eckert from the UUP. And that's probably the first manifestation in America that things are working back at home. So then, without drawing their breath, we were into an election in the South, because we were an All-Ireland party. And it was a bit of a setback, and I'm saying that mildly. We had targeted for a few breakthroughs, and we hoped to hold the 5 seats that we had, but the net result was that even though, and this is big irony, we gained something like 23,000 votes, we actually lost 1 seat. But there was quite steady growth in most of the rural areas. There was no setbacks in any rural area. We had enormous growth in Donegal, where we almost won 2 seats. But Dublin has a particular problem where we took a real hit in all of the Dublin constituencies, and we've already been well into our analysis of why all that happened and what we're going to do to rectify it. And it wasn't just a hit in terms of losing a seat and not making gains. If we had reached a threshold of at least 7 in the Southern Parliament and the Dáil, that means that the enormous things will come into it. They recognise that the market and they're given speaking rights, they're given access to all of the committees. Whereas if you're below that number, it can kind of close you down a bit. So we have a bit of work to do in all of that. But if the help and the focus in America stays good, and I believe it will, and if we keep on, and the focus will more and more come on questions of communication. I came out here last Friday, and it was in the New York area, and it was Narrow River, and New Jersey Trenton yesterday, and there needs to be a renewed focus on this question of Irish reunification. That was always what it was about. Always what it was about. That republicanism had to end up in an armed struggle was because of the way the British reacted to the civil rights. And that focus is there. And I just think there was just enormous potential. And I suppose, it could be this generation that could complete the journey. Think about it, after 800 years, it could be our generation that could bring this about. We've estimated that in the North, that will take 2 elections, and that's about 8 years for us to become the biggest party outright, bigger than any unionist party. The nationalist population of the North now is around 43% and growing. The nationalist population in the schools is over 50%. The unionists know all this. So that process is ongoing and ongoing. And we now have the basis in the Good Friday Agreement, or if you're a unionist, you call it the Belfast Agreement, to bring about Irish reunification, and we can do that democratically, and we can do it peacefully, and I don't think anybody can object. So that's the programme. And I conclude by where I started by thanking you for all of your effort there, all of the years of this time. We went through horrendous phases. I've been involved in movement since 1970, so there wasn't too many corners that I wasn't around in terms of this. are. So thank you for all your help. Keep it up. Just keep it up.
Yeah, we're coming along at the moment. I mean, he's got to have something that he's thinking about.
Well, he's done very few interviews since he made the agreement, but the one interview he did make, he said that he was faced with a scenario that if he collapsed the Assembly, and it was down to him, because we had manoeuvred it, that he had to make the call. If he collapsed the Assembly, the British and Irish government were going to move in on what he thought was joint rule, and to him that was anathema. And it would be better if he made a deal with Sinn Fein than allow the Irish government to come in. We know privately that what he was afraid of was looking down the road that the Irish government could have Sinn Fein as a component part, or at least Sinn Fein as an influence on it, and that was also a frightening thing to him. Now, his wife has said something entirely different. She said God told him to do it.
He's always in communication with God.
And that he's doing that for years. He hasn't listened. So, take your pick. That's the two public reasons. Now, there's a big irony about Paisley. Paisley really does not like the British. He really doesn't. And there's been a lot of commentary at home, particularly on the sketches on TV, that he might be, this is a contradiction, a unionist Sinn Feiner. He doesn't like the British. He's quite open about that, you know. He thinks if he'd leave us alone, we would have sorted this all out years ago. I know what he's done. He would have shot every one of us if we could have. And I think he also was afraid that if he collapsed the Assembly, Stormont to them, which was the only institution that they had any allegiance to, he would never be forgiven within the Unionists. So you have all those reasons, and maybe none of them are right. Maybe God didn't tell him anything. but he did the deal, and to be fair to him, he's been very relaxed since about it. He gets on enormously well with Martin McGuinness. He calls him deputy. So,
who would ever believe?
And that's a big misnomer, because even though the official title is First Minister and Deputy First Minister, legally and politically it's joint authority. Paisley can do nothing without Martin McGuinness' signature, and Martin can't do anything without Paisley's signature. So it's a very much joint authority. So, hope that answers your question.
There was an article in the paper here about the British troops were pulled out of Dent country, and is this are the British going to withdraw the soldiers all out of Northern Ireland? Are they at this time, or what's the situation with the troops?
I mean, you don't now see any British soldiers in the force. So they have been withdrawn to two major barracks, and there are now less than 4,000 soldiers, where at their height there were 32,000. In my own constituency of West Tyrone, there were two massive army bases in Roma Town, on the edge of Roma Town. One was called St. Lucia Barracks, and the other was the St. Eli Barracks. And I mean, I thought there would never. At one time, I thought we'd campaigned for so long that this base must be part of NATO, because there was no indication of